you're going to wrestling. WBCB presents. That's cool. Are you talking to me? Pro Wrestling Radio. Oh, it's so. Can you feel it? Oh, the damn soul. Call in with a question or comment. 6-1. Just bring it. What is he doing here? And 1-888-922-2149. Oh, it's true. Don't make me hurt you. To be the man. You got it. That's hard time. I hate you ever. And now your host of the show. That's how I roll. Eric. And that's the bottom line.
Well, thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you all. This is Pro Wrestling Radio. I'm not going to waste much time with a long introduction here because I am just absolutely ecstatic about the show I am able to present to you today. I could not think of a better way to close out 2006 than a man who has been a guest on this show more than any other in the history of the 8 years that this radio show has been on the air. He is without question the most popular guest that I have had since day one, according to listeners of the radio show, and he is pro wrestling's living legend, a former WWF World Heavyweight Champion, a good friend, and I'll tell you what, it is just an honor to have him back on the show. His name is Bruno Sammartino. Bruno, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you very kindly, Eric. I'm very happy to be on your show, and please let me wish you and all of your listeners a Happy New Year. And what's the old saying? Wishing everyone health, wealth, and happiness.
There you go. How's your holiday been so far?
The holidays have been real good because it's been just, family thing. I've had my sons and their children, daughter-in-law and us, and we've been spending one night Christmas Eve over my son Daryl's house, and Christmas Day they were all over here, and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day it will be the same scenario. So when you're in family and everybody's doing okay, that's the most wonderful thing.
Now we all know about David, but did your other son ever have any aspirations to be a pro wrestler?
No, he wrestled both high school and college. Daryl did. He's a very good wrestler. And Danny, my other son, he wrestled in high school, but he played baseball and some football.
Okay.
But no, as far as professional, because by the time they came along, wrestling had already changed, by the time Vince McMahon Jr. took over. And at that point, they kind of really didn't care to consider that as their profession. Gotcha.
So how's your health these days? I mean, you're looking great in all the pictures that I've seen of you.
Well, for an old guy, I feel pretty darn good. I've had these major surgeries, but I was extremely lucky because I know other guys who have had surgeries from, those old concrete-like rings we used to wrestle on years ago. It left a lot of guys, with having hip replacements and back surgeries, knee replacements, all that kind of stuff. And in my case, I've had, major back surgeries, and I had hip replacement and other stuff. But I was so extremely lucky. I had some really great doctors, and they did a real good job.
Wow.
And as a result, I did my own rehab, and I train 6 days a week. And I considering my age and everything else, I think I'm in pretty good shape.
Excellent. What is your workout routine like these days?
Well, one day on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I work out with the weights. I work out about 2 hours each day with, different weight exercises. And then the other 3 days, I do road work. I never do less than 6 miles, and I go up to usually 7 miles, but maybe once a week I go as high as 8 miles.
Wow.
And then when I get done with that, I come back home in my little gym downstairs, and I do about 1,000 reps of, crunches, leg raises, leg extensions, all kind of different stomach workouts.
That's amazing.
Well, that's how I keep my weight down, because I'm down to about 250. Well, right now I'm a little heavier. Right now I'm about 220.
Aren't we all with the holidays?
Yeah, the holidays. I'm really working even harder, but the weight is still creeped up a little. But I try to be at 215. But for the holidays, I'll go up to maybe 222, 223. But then I'll get back to, solid track, and I'll be back down to 215.
Have you ever thought about writing a fitness book for seniors?
You know what? Recently, because we've been doing some a documentary thing that we've been working on, and some people saw what I look like today physically. They think that that might be a good thing to do. I don't know. You know, we'll see if somebody shows some real interest in it. Maybe I would, but nothing solid so far.
Gotcha. Now, the last couple of years that I had you on the air, there seemed to be a little bit of a recruiting process going on at some point with the WWE trying to get you into the Hall of Fame. Has the recruiting process started yet for next year's Hall of Fame?
No, there's no. At least I've not been contacted or informed about anything from anybody. No.
Gotcha. Now, how would you feel if they just went ahead and inducted you without even your blessing?
Well, I don't know that I could do anything about it, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that most people, I believe, know how I feel about that. But you know, if they did it that way, if they chose to do it that way, you know, then if it's allowed to do that, then, you know, they could do it, I guess. But I certainly would not participate in it.
Right. Were you surprised when you heard that Bret Hart returned last year for his induction?
Well, you know, I knew Bret Hart. I can't tell you that I know him, really know him. I met him many different times, you know, throughout the wrestling thing, but I can say that I really know the guy. And I don't like to judge somebody on the decisions that they make. Obviously, if he chose to accept that invitation, it must have, must have been important for him, I would think. I don't know. But that was his choice. You know, I can't judge what other people do. I can only go with me and what I feel and what I believe in.
Right. Now, again, we are talking to the living legend of professional wrestling, Bruno Sammartino. Now, you and I had a little conversation recently, and we started talking about this, and I'd love for you to share your thoughts with the listeners of the show out there. What do you think about the recent boom, so to speak, over the last couple of years of religion from your contemporaries that have all of a sudden put out books proclaiming how religious they are and spreading their word?
Well, you know what? If it's sincere, if it's really sincere, I take my hat off to all of them, to all those who are extremely sincere. But I have seen, or heard rather, certain things that have been bothersome to me. For example, I never watch wrestling on TV, but I've had some calls where, for example, McMahon in one case talked about something to the effect of, I don't know if I'm using the exact quote, but something to the effect of that he hates God and God hates him, and so that this Shawn Michaels was going to be in a wrestling match of McMahon said something to the effect of Shawn Michaels and God against me, and I forget who the partner, maybe his son, I don't know. But my question then is that Shawn Michaels went along with this whole program, and if he's a true born-again Christian, I just don't understand how you would participate in something like that. That to me is unbelievable and kind of scary. And then there have been others who are supposedly found religion, and they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. I don't want to go into their names or what have you, but you know, then I put a question mark on it, and I think that if they were truly sincere, great, but if they do it for reasons that for self-purpose or whatever, then shame on them. What can I tell you? To use the name of God for personal gain of some way or other, that's pretty pathetic.
Just when you think they get a little more shallow, Bruno, they start digging more out of the pool, huh?
Well, you know, I think that's what happens,
Yeah. I have to ask you a question. I had a chance to go to dinner a couple of months ago with Mae Young and the Fabulous Moolah. And Johnny May said that when you first broke into the business, she traveled with you for a couple of weekends.
Who did?
Johnny May Young.
May Young, the lady wrestler.
Yeah, she said that she traveled with you the first couple of weekends when you first broke into the business.
My God, that's amazing, because I don't believe I ever met Mae Young.
Really?
I don't know Mae Young. I never met her.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, because she, she brought up that she traveled with you before you broke big, in New York.
Well, that's where I broke into wrestling, was with the New York promotions.
I think she meant in the Pittsburgh territory. She was down there.
No, no, because the New York territory wasn't part of New York territory.
Okay.
No, I don't believe I ever met them. Moolah I've met.
Yes.
She's been on a card that I was on. She wrestled. But Mae Young, it surprises me to hear that, because unless I'm getting old and goofy, I don't know, but I don't ever remember meeting Mae Young, because she was already done by the time I came around.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Another quick question before we start taking calls for you is mixed martial arts. I don't know how familiar you are with like mixed martial arts and the ultimate fighting, and do you watch or follow any of that stuff?
No, I've heard about it, but honestly, I've never seen it. But I have heard about it. In fact, they did a piece on 60 Minutes
Yes.
that I did see, and they were talking about it, and I didn't even realize how it's grown in popularity and how really well it's doing on pay-per-view, and live attendance are great. I just didn't know that it was that big, but evidently it's really caught on big.
Gotcha. Well, without further ado, I know that I was telling you before I brought you on the air that the phones were going crazy with people wanting to speak with you, and I can't blame them. So with your blessing, I'd love to start taking some calls for you.
Oh, please. I'd love to talk to fans.
Excellent. This city and this radio show has had such a love affair with you. I mean, especially Philadelphia. I mean, before we get to the phones, what do you remember about wrestling in Philadelphia?
I loved it, and I mean that sincerely. I know I've said that about Boston and Madison Square Garden, but I put Philadelphia with those places because it wasn't just the wrestling. I mean, I go way back in Philadelphia at the old arena, and I believe it was 45th and Market Street or Marketplace, whatever it was. We used to go there every 2 weeks. It was an old arena. It held about 13,000 people, I believe. But I used to like it because it had that old arena atmosphere. But the fans, I was very, very lucky throughout my career. The fans always treated me so great. And then when we moved on to the Spectrum from there, of course, that wasn't every 2 weeks. That was once a month. And the same thing. But I loved the city, too, because the old fighter, I don't know if you remember the name Lou Tendler, he had a restaurant, and after the matches, I would go to Lou Tendler's for dinner and meet some of the old fighters that used to come in there. And
on Broad Street, my producer saying.
Correct, right, yes. On Broad Street. And so that was a great memory for me. And then there was a place called Gino's Restaurant where they had two guys, a baritone and a tenor, that would sing different arias from different operas while people were having dinner, and I used to go there at times. And I'll tell you, and then of course I used to go to the Lyric Opera Company on Broad Street when Aurelio Fabiani was not only boxing and wrestling promoter, but he was also the big opera impresario. So Philadelphia, man, it was great. I loved Philadelphia.
Well, that's fantastic. Let me give the phone numbers out for people that would like to speak with the legend. The phone numbers to call in, and we do have a full board of lines right now, so just wait until somebody drops off. The numbers to call in are 1-888-922-2149. That's 1-888-922-2149, or locally at 215-949-3232. Let's bring up our first caller, and we want to ask that caller speak up real loud and clear so everybody can hear you. We're going to go to New York first, and Rob from New York has been waiting a while. Rob, how are you?
How you doing, Eric? Bruno,
yes,
great
sir.
talking to you. You're a legend and a great inspiration for those who want to get in the business, and you are not afraid to say your piece on Wrestling Today.
Well, thank you, Rob. Thank you. You're from New York, huh?
Yes, I am.
Very good. Well, New York was pretty special to me, too.
Yeah. I hear you were at the Ring of Honor show last September in New York City, and I would like to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I'll be real honest with you. I was in New York because I made an appearance at I guess it's called the Pennsylvania Hotel. I was doing some autograph signing and then I was asked if I would make an appearance at the Ring of Honor. And I wasn't familiar with them at all, and they were kind enough to send me a tape to see what they were all about. And since I was going to be in New York, I agreed. And my feelings about that, I'll be honest with you, I was blown away because the audience was fairly young. By young, I mean maybe, I don't know, maybe 35 years and younger. And and I was quite shocked, to be honest, at the reception they gave me. It was as if though they were people from my era who used to come to the Garden and watch me wrestle. And I just was amazed because being that they were young, I didn't really expect. I hoped that I would get a warm, welcome, but I never expected the way they treated me, and I was very grateful for that. But also, I guess, must have told me that a lot of moms and dads talk to their kids about some of us old timers. I don't know, but it was great. It was absolutely great.
Yeah, because let's see, what else was there? I was actually at a show, but it was like not that one. I went to the one in March, and I was impressed by what the show was. And I mean, that's like I think personally, the whole WWE and TNA, Ring of Honor is pretty much where it is.
Well, do you have another question for Bruno, or because we're going to try and keep it fast?
Yeah. I remember you were actually at a show back in '99 for All Japan at the Tokyo Dome, and there was the big Baba retirement show. It was right after Baba passed away. What was your thoughts on Giant Baba?
Well, that was a tribute to Giant Baba. His wife and company had called me. They were going to do a tribute to him because he had already died a while ago. And so naturally I did go because I had a lot of respect for Shohei Baba. I made 20 tours of Japan, and every time I went there, of course, he and I were the match. And so I wrestled him everywhere in Japan, and every time I went to Japan, that was the big match, he and I. So I had great respect for Shohei Baba, for a guy who was almost 7 foot tall. A lot of people, sometimes questioned what kind of a wrestler he was. I'll tell you what, I had hour-long matches with him. What can I tell you? The guy, you could go an hour, you could go, any distance, time he had to go, and he was impressive enough with his actions in the ring to remain a top headliner there for many years. But for me, like I say, I had great respect for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, Bob, I've seen some of his matches, and he's really impressive, I think.
Oh, good.
All right, well, listen, Rob, I'm about short of a break here, so I'm going to head to a quick timeout, and I want to thank you very much for kicking things off here. All right? Well, thank you very much, and have a good New Year. Well, Bruno, I'm going to ask if you can hang in there. We'll take a quick timeout. When we get back, we'll get back to taking some calls from your many fans out there.
Okay, we'll be here.
All right, fantastic. We are wrapping up 2006 talking to professional wrestling's true living legend, Bruno Sammartino. You can call him with a question or comment for the living legend at 1-888-922-2149. That's toll free at 888-922-2149 or locally at 215-949-3232. And again, like in the past when we've had guests on the show, the way we're going to work this out is when I bring you on the air, have your question ready. I'll ask that you ask your question, and then I'm going to cut you off at that point just so we can keep the show moving at a good pace and get in as many callers for Bruno as possible. So when you're ready to get on the air, just ask your question or questions, 1 or 2 or 3, it doesn't matter, and then we'll drop off. We'll listen to the legend respond, and we'll keep the show moving and try and squeeze in as many of your calls as possible with the limited time that we have with professional wrestling's living legend. My name is Eric Argiulo, and you're listening to Pro Wrestling Radio in a couple of places. One, live on the internet at WBCB1490.com, archived on my website at ProWrestlingRadio.com, through a podcast at iTunes.com, and on the air on WBCB 1490 AM.
And now back to more Pro Wrestling Radio, and your host of the show, Eric Argiulo.
Alrighty, welcome back to Pro Wrestling Radio, and a happy New Year's weekend to everybody out there listening to the show. And again, we are speaking with the living legend of professional wrestling, Bruno Sammartino. Let me give those phone numbers out to you once again for you to call in and ask the legend a question at 1-888-922-2149. That is 1-888-922-2149, or locally at 215-949-3232. All right, let's bring up Vince, who's been hanging on for a few minutes there. Vince, how are you, buddy?
Oh, fantastic. I'm happy to be with the legend and the legend, the Louis Cannon. God almighty, it's way to finish out the year. God bless you both. I'm going to put a good word in for Mae Young, Eric. Give her another chance. Get another dinner date and get her on as a guest, please.
There you go. Do you have some questions you want to...
Yeah, Mr. Sammartino, as good as you are, did you ever start any independent leagues locally, like Worldwide Wrestling Alliance in particular, or any other ones?
All right, well, Vince, listen, thank you very much for your question. Have a great New Year, and we'll hear Bruno answer.
Amen. Have a good day.
All right, take care. Bruno, did you ever get involved with starting and promoting your own wrestling territory?
No, I did not.
Okay.
No.
Did you ever have any aspiration to do so, or why did you not? Because I would think with your success that you would have the opportunity to do that.
Well, you mean after I retired to start another league of some sort?
Or even when you were in your prime, maybe when during the time when Vince tried to blacklist you, did you try and start your own territory?
No, when I got blacklisted, although I was just more or less of a rookie, so I wasn't experienced enough, known enough, or anything to start anything up. And nor was I in any kind of a position financially or anything to get involved in something like that. So no, I did not. But after I became a wrestler and became, got the belt and all that kind of stuff, then I did start a promotion called Spectator Sports in the tri-state area here between Ohio, part of Pennsylvania, and West Virginia.
Okay.
But I was traveling all over the world, and I had other people that were really running it.
Gotcha. All righty, let's stay local here, and we'll bring up our next caller, who's hanging on line 33. He calls himself the Rat Boy. Rat Boy, how are you?
Yo, Happy New Year, Eric.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to Bruno, too.
And Happy New Year to you as well, my friend.
All right, one question for Bruno. If he had a chance, would he do it all over again?
All right, thank you very much, and have yourself a Happy New Year. Bruno, would you do it all over again?
You know what? People have asked me that in the past. No, I wouldn't do it if I had to do it the way it is today, okay? But going back to my era, yeah, I would do it all over again because you have to understand, for me that was great because coming from Europe, given my background and all that, coming to this great country and working out and all that stuff and having that opportunity. I don't know, I was a construction worker while I was in the amateurs, so yeah, I would do it all over again because it enabled me to give my family a different kind of a life than the one that I had experienced up to that point,
Gotcha. Now, speaking of your life and your family life outside of wrestling, what was it like growing up in Italy during the war?
Well, that was terrible because, when after the fall of Mussolini in 43, we were occupied by the Nazis and we were driven from our home where I came from, and we had to go hide in higher mountains where for 14 months we had to hide up there, and it was terrible because no food or, the winters over there one has to experience to see how ferocious they were. And my mom, because my father had already come to America before the war, so then he was stuck here and we were stuck there because all passages were closed. So my poor mother, having all these small children, she had to sneak down that mountain and sneak into the town while the Nazis were sleeping upstairs. She'd have to get past the guards to get back to our basement, but she would have been shot right on sight and tried to get some potatoes, corn, some, flour, and then we would ration it to make it last as long as we could. But there were times when we just lived on snow. So, we went through some really, really bad times. Then, of all things, I got very, very sick. Didn't know for a good while what it was when we finally came off that mountain when the Germans were finally driven from my town. And here it turned out I had rheumatic fever, so for the next 3 years I was laid up pretty bad. So by the time I came to this country, believe me, I was a human skeleton. Wow. And but through hard work and dedication, I really worked hard, and when I came into wrestling, I was 275, so I really made some great progress.
Wow. All right, let's go back to the phones, and we're going to go out to Michigan, and Scott's been hanging on from Michigan. Scott, how are you, buddy?
How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing fantastic. Do you have a question for Bruno or two?
Yes. Oh, yes, Bruno, Happy New Year, sir.
Happy New Year to you, too. Thank you.
Yeah, it's quite intimidating for a 16-year-old to be talking to a living legend like you right now. I had a question because I just bought Roddy Piper's DVD, Born to Controversy, and there's a Piper's Pit on there with you and him, which I thought was absolutely tremendous. Was there any talks or matches that happened between you and him afterwards? And on through and through, what did you think of Piper in that segment?
All right, well, listen, thank you very much for checking in.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand. You'll have to repeat what he said.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I have no problem repeating. recently the WWE put out a DVD of Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
And on the DVD, there's a Piper's Pit between you and Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
And he commented that he absolutely loved the segment, that he thought it was tremendous.
Oh.
And he wanted to know if you ever wrestled Roddy Piper and what your thoughts were on Roddy Piper and the matches you may have had with him.
Yeah, I had, after that incident, I wrestled him at the Meadowland in New Jersey. Well, it used to be called the Meadowland. I guess it's not anymore.
Right.
And I wrestled him someplace else. But keep in mind, I don't even consider that time as my career because I retired in 1981. And when I came back as a color commentator in 84, McMahon asked me if I would put the tights on because a couple clubs were slipping. They weren't doing as well, and he thought I might be able to help. I really was against it. I really didn't care to put on the tights anymore. It's a long story, which I won't get into, but finally I did. But I didn't like it. Nothing to do with opponents or anything like that. I just didn't like to have to put on the tights at that stage of my life.
Yeah, you've gone into that in depth on the radio show here in the past. And, during that time, you wrestled quite a variety of opponents, if I remember. I know you wrestled Piper and Orndorff and Honky Tonk Man and Savage. And who were some of your favorites that you might have had the chance to wrestle at that time?
Well, Orndorff, he was a good action guy. He worked hard. Like I say, I wrestled him. And what's his name? Horton?
Bobby Orton?
Yeah, I wrestled him. And Adrian Adonis. Who else did I wrestle? Savage, as you said. It was different kind. It was a different kind of wrestling from my matches with people like Ivan Koloff and Toru Tanaka and Don Leo Jonathan and Big Bill Miller and Kowalski and Monsoon and those guys. There's no question about it for me. It was way, way different.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And let me ask you a question, too, about that time period. I'll ask him that. What did you like or not like about commentary? Because you did commentary for a little while.
I liked it back in the. I liked it from I was still wrestling. I was commentating from 78 to 80, I guess it was, or 78 to 81. So whatever. Till I liked it. I liked it a lot. But when I came back in 84 as a commentator, the wrestling gets so changed by then that I'm not gonna lie to you. I liked it less and less, and finally I decided to just get away from it altogether. Gotcha.
Now my producer here, he wanted me to ask you if you ever wrestled Mike Mazurki.
Yes, I did. I wrestled Mike Mazurki one time, and guess what? Asbury Park, New Jersey. Yeah, I did wrestle him.
Excellent. And real quick before we get back to the phones, because I have a couple of people waiting, we just talked to Scott in Michigan, the home of the original Sheik. What do you remember about wrestling the original Sheik?
Well, I wrestled the original Sheik a lot of times, and there's no question that he was well known, made a name for himself, especially in Detroit and that. Am I going to tell you that my favorite matches were like with the Sheik? No. Not taking anything away from him. It's just that his particular style of wrestling and mine just didn't gel real well together. But they were okay, but nothing to write home about. But that's not. I'm not blaming him or suggesting that he wasn't good. It's just that. It's like he brought a toolbox with him. He's always getting stuff out of being handed to him to use in the ring, and I'm uncomfortable with stuff like that.
Gotcha. All right, let's go back to the phones, and Don is hanging on. Don, you're on the air with the Living Legend.
Eric and Bruno, how you doing?
Yes, sir. I'm okay, Don. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Bruno. This is a real honor for me to speak with you. I followed your career from your first title reign back in between 1963 and 1971. Unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to see one of your classic matches against Gorilla Monsoon, and I was just wondering if the day would ever come, possibly maybe on a DVD or something like that, I may have the opportunity to see that.
Well, thank you very much for asking your question. And listen, have a happy and safe New Year to you, Don.
Can I ask one more question?
Oh, sure.
Okay. I'd like you to compare some of the opponents you've wrestled in the past as far as how you would rank them. The five guys I have in mind that I'd like to ask you about are Ivan Koloff, Don Leo Jonathan, Dick the Bulldog Brower, Big Bill Miller, and Waldo Von Erich.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, Don. Well, you want to start with that one, Bruno?
Well, yeah, as far as those people that he mentioned, my goodness, Jonathan was a giant who was like a cat in that ring, the way he could move for a guy 6'6", 320 pounds. And Bill Miller, if any of the folks remember him, he was a veterinarian. When he went back to being a veterinarian after he retired from wrestling. Another guy who was about 6'6", 6'7", 320, 30 pounds. He was an All-American out of Ohio State and as well as National EU Wrestling Champion. I mean, these guys in Monsoon, for a guy 420 pounds, I want to tell you something. He could really move for a guy that size. One time I wrestled him in the Garden for 1 hour and 29 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, non-stop match. And
wow.
Waldo Von Erich, he was very seldom do you hear his name, but he was, believe me, he was a tremendous wrestler. Koloff, what can I tell you? I did like to wrestle Koloff because he was like a bull, 300 pounds. I was about 275, and I think we both really moved well with a lot of arm dragging and scoop slams, and we tossed each other around like we were toys. I mean, considering our size, weight-wise back in those days, I think we showed the people just how quick a guy can be at 300 pounds, or in my case 275, and how agile and so forth. And I think we really. So this gentleman named some really great guys, and I certainly would rate all of them as amongst the best ever.
Excellent.
I forgot his first question.
His first question, I would imagine you don't have any control over this, is he was hoping that he would have the opportunity to see some of your matches with Gorilla Monsoon.
Well, that's McMahon. Was it McMahon? I don't know the laws, but somehow he copyright all that stuff, and nobody supposedly can show him except him because he's got the right to them. And I don't know. All the DVDs he has control of, and whether he has matches of me and Monsoon on any album, I really don't know. I would think he probably would, but I don't know.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to ask you again to hang on. We're going to take a quick timeout, and coming up after the break, a guy you know real well, Joe from Northeast, who you talk to regularly here when you do the appearances on the show.
Oh, yeah, sure do know Joe.
Absolutely, Joe. Your biggest fan for sure, at least on Pro Wrestling Radio, and we have Ron from Levittown to follow, and as many calls as possible. So I'm going to ask that you hang in, and we'll get right back to you, Bruno.
Okay.
All righty. We are talking to the living legend of professional wrestling, Bruno Sammartino, wrapping up a crazy year of 2006 here on Pro Wrestling Radio. If you would like to talk to Bruno, give us a call at 1-888-922-2149. That's 1-888-922-2149, or locally at 215-949-3232. And like I say, when we get you on the air, just be ready to ask your question or questions. And once you ask your questions, I'm going to ask that you drop off the air, and then we'll give Bruno the allotted time to answer your question and respond. So we'll keep the show moving and squeeze in as many calls as we possibly can for wrestling's greatest champion. You're listening to the show in a couple of places. One, on the internet on WBCB1490.com, archived on my website, ProWrestlingRadio.com, and on the air on WBCB 1490 AM.
And now back to more Pro Wrestling Radio. I'm your host of the show, Ric Flair.
Alrighty, welcome back to Pro Wrestling Radio, and again we are speaking with professional wrestling's living legend, Bruno Sammartino, taking calls for the legend up until 1 o'clock at 1-888-922-2149, or locally at 215-949-3232. And again, when you come on the air, we're going to bring you up and just ask your question, and we'll bring you back down and give Bruno the allotted time to respond. All right, let's go to Northeast Philadelphia. Joe, good friend of the show, good friend of Bruno's. Joe, welcome to Pro Wrestling Radio.
Hi, Eric. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you.
Hi, Bruno. How you doing, my friend?
Happy holidays, Joe, and your family. Everybody doing well?
I'm having a little trouble hearing you, Bruno.
Oh, I said, is everybody doing well in your family?
Oh, yeah, we're all doing good, and everybody sends us their love. My daughter Angela, Faith, and my wife Jerry all said to say hello to you, and I send you all my best, Bruno. I'd like to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I'd like to say congratulations on your new grandson, Bruno.
Oh, thank you very much, Joe. You know about that. I'm thrilled to death. My wife and I are just on cloud nine. He's a beautiful boy, and guess what his name is?
Bruno Sammartino II.
Bruno Leopoldo Sammartino II. Well, that's my middle name, Leopoldo, so that's his middle name.
Yeah, I was very happy to hear that, Bruno. That was a good honor and a good name.
Thank you.
Bruno, I'd like to say you're one of the greatest people I ever met in my life. Not just sports athletes, human beings. You're one of the best persons I ever met. You're always caring, kind, compassionate. You're one of my favorite people ever. I always enjoyed seeing you wrestle. You've been a true gentleman to me and my family, and I thank you for that, Bruno.
Oh, I thank you very kindly, Joey. You know, I like you too. You and your family. You guys are great too, and it's always nice to see you whenever I'm around Philly, and you always come around. But most importantly, as I say, for the new year, I wish your whole family, much happiness and great health, and hope to see you again before too long.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for checking in, Joe. It's always a pleasure hearing from you.
All right, Eric, I'd like to ask Bruno two things.
Okay.
Bruno, when are you coming back to Philly? I haven't seen you since a year since Columbus Day.
And what's your second question?
And the second question is, who was your favorite tag team partner? That's one I never asked you.
All right, well, there you go. Well, listen, thanks again, and truly a happy and healthy and safe New Year to you and your family.
Okay, thank you, and God bless you, Bruno. Take care.
Thank you, Joe. Bye-bye.
All right, Bruno, I don't know if you heard him, but he wanted to...
I will be in Philadelphia because the Italian-American, the Sons of Italy in America honored me there last year, and they've invited me to come back. There's going to be a couple of banquets that I'll be going to in Philadelphia. And, what was the second part of the question?
Who your favorite tag team partner was?
Well, probably, I didn't do too many tag teams. I did tag team a good bit in between titles with Dick the Bruiser throughout the Midwest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, throughout the Midwest, he and I were tag team partners. But as far as a favorite, probably my paisan, my good buddy Dominic Denise, because we come from the same neck of the wood in the old country, and we've been friends, and we still remain friends to this day. So it was always fun when Dominic and I hooked up together. But like I say, I didn't do too many tag teams. I was mostly single.
Wow, what a powerhouse team you and Dick the Bruiser must have been.
Yeah, Dick. Wild man Dick. I'll tell you, I like Dick. Many years ago I'd wrestled him, but now he and I had become tag team partners, and we wrestled, in Chicago, Indianapolis, all over Wisconsin and St. Louis even. And it was quite an experience. Dick was quite a character.
Excellent. All right, we're going to go back to the phones and bring up Ron from Levittown. Ron, what are your questions for Bruno?
How you doing, Bruno?
Hi, Ron. How are you?
It's been years since I talked to you last. Listen, I would like to know what your son David's doing now, and is there any members of your family going to get into business?
All right, well, listen, thank you very much for checking in, Ron. Appreciate it. Your son David, Bruno, he wants to know what he's up to.
Oh, he lives in Atlanta, Georgia. He's got a wife and a daughter. The daughter's a young lady now. She's about, I believe, around 19 years of age and going to college. And he has a gym, I think, that he likes to spend a lot of time in. He's very, big in physical fitness. And he met, a good-looking lady from Georgia many years ago. He's been married, I think, 24 years. So Georgia is his home now, and that's where he's at.
Excellent. And he wanted to know, and I believe you and I talked about this earlier, he wanted to know if any other members of your family have any aspirations to get into the wrestling business.
No, my goodness. They wrestled in school. My Danny and Daryl, my twins. Actually, they're the two bigger guys. Because Danny and Daryl, one of them weighs about 240, Danny, and his twin brother, Daryl, weighs about 230. They both wrestle. Well, Daryl wrestled in high school and college, but Danny wrestled in high school, but he also played baseball and some football.
Oh, excellent. Good stuff. All right, I'll give my producer a second here. We'll go back to the phones in Northeast Philadelphia. John's been hanging on. John, how are you? You're on the air with Bruno Sammartino.
Doing good, Eric. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
You guys hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. If you want to just...
I can't hear John, Eric. If you could speak a little louder, please.
All right, if you just want to ask your questions, and then I'll repeat them to Bruno for you.
Okay, Bruno, I just want to know, with all these wrestlers entering like movies and reality television, do you think wrestlers nowadays are becoming more like salesmen rather than just athletes?
Well, thank you very much, John. It's a great question.
And I just want to say Happy New Year to you and Bruno, and happy holidays and everything. I want to thank you for, giving me the opportunity to, do what I do on your website as I do every single time I get a chance to. Thank you for your support.
Hey, you got it, John. Thank you for contributing. Take care. Happy New Year. Well, you heard the question, Bruno.
Well, you know what? I don't know if I can answer what John said, because he said about, did I understand right, that there's a lot of reality shows? Is that what he said?
Yes. A lot of wrestlers getting into reality television.
I don't even know of any of them. That's so much I'm into it. I don't know who has a reality show in wrestling.
Well, Hulk Hogan has the biggest one. Hogan has one with his family where they had the cameras on his family 24 hours a day.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
No, I don't. Like I said, I don't follow it at all anymore.
Yeah.
Look, we're living in the greatest country in the world, and if people who like to watch that, that's their right. For me, I can't, because I'm offended by what I used to see years ago, and I just got away from it. I tuned it off and never tuned back on again. Although I have people call me and tell me what's happening, like I said about McMahon saying he hates God and God hates him. When I hear stuff like that, it saddens me to know that the game that I spent all those years in has become what it has become. So I just don't bother with it.
Yeah, I do have a question for you, and in getting to know you on and off the air, and I know that you're so proud of your accomplishments and the business that you participated in back in your time period, but some people accuse you of being bitter. How do you answer those people that criticize you for that?
My goodness, when people say I'm bitter, these are people who just don't have a clue on what they're talking about. I have said, I don't know why it is, I don't know, but for the past maybe 15 years or so, even though I'm getting so much older, these have been the best times of my life. I've never been happier. I have, like I say, my grandchildren are such beautiful kids that my wife and I get to spend a lot of time with. My wife and I kid around to say we date again, because every Saturday we go out to dinner in our favorite restaurants. We go back to the old country once a year, and sometimes we'll go on a cruise. We just celebrated our 48th wedding anniversary by going back to Italy and all that. I mean, people who say that, they just don't have a clue what they're talking about. And it's amazing, because some of the people who made those kind of comments are people that haven't seen me in maybe 25, 30 years. I don't know where that comes from, but all I can tell you is this. I'd wish for more people to be bitter the way I am at this stage of my life, because there'd be a lot of happy people out there.
Wow, God bless you. God bless you for that. All right, let's go back to the phones, and let's go to Virginia. And Ted is hanging on. Ted, what are your questions for Bruno?
Hey, first off, Eric, Happy New Year to you, and also Happy New Year to Bruno. I'm a lifelong fan, Bruno, old school, and God bless you. And I know you're not bitter. It's just that you are just exposing the fact that you got a complete life, and a lot of people don't understand that, wrestling is not the only thing that makes a person a human being. And first off, my question for Bruno is this. Ivan Koloff just recently came out with a new book in which he compliments you and says that, that you were one of his idols. And I know you and him were both, big, strong guys, back in the day. And I know you're in fabulous shape today. But can you just expound on your feud with Ivan Koloff and when he took the title, or the title was passed from him to you back then in what I consider probably one of the best eras of wrestling ever?
Do you have any other questions before I have Bruno ask that one?
Yeah, also in reference, one other question is this, is that in reference to superstar Billy Graham, just how strong was he? Because I know him and Koloff actually hung out together, but in reference to you three, by any chance did you three live together and so forth? Because just that era of the wrestling magazines, that was probably one of the best times of my life, and just expound on that era, because I know that you wrestled some of the bigger, stronger guys and matched them strength for strength as I knew you would. But Ivan Koloff, hearing about his new upcoming book and how I know he found Christianity and so forth, and he gives you a lot of praise and so forth. I was just wondering, the time the title changed in '71, I know that you acquiesced to that, but if you could just expound on that, if you don't mind, Bruno.
Well, thank you very much for checking in, asking some great questions, and Happy New Year and Happy Holidays to you and your family, Ted.
All right, as always, Eric.
All right.
Happy holidays, Ted. Yeah.
All right. Well, Bruno, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I could hear Ted, but I couldn't hear him clear. But what did he want to know about me and Koloff?
He just wanted you to expand on it. He said Ivan Koloff just put out a book, and he talked very highly of you. And he said Ivan Koloff referred to you as one of his idols, and he just wanted you to expand on Koloff and Koloff's title chase and the matches you had.
Koloff, first of all, I've always said, it's not just now that he tells me the compliments, because I didn't even know he had a book out. But as you heard me talk even a little earlier, I said how much I loved wrestling him, because he was like a bull. In his heyday, when he was like a 300-pounder and I was 275, we could both really move. That was before some of the more serious injuries started coming along. And in the early days, we could really, really move in that ring. And I loved wrestling him because we both could move so well, and we both threw each other around pretty darn much. And I thought that we really gave the people more than their money's worth. So he was always one of the favorites that I wrestled. As far as championship, I felt bad that when he got the belt from me, that within, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, about 3 weeks later, it went to Koloff and that. And I just feel that if he had the opportunity to hang on to that title for a while, I think he could have done well with it for a period of time. I don't know how long.
Yeah.
But it was never given the opportunity for him to see what he could do as a champion. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And his other question to you, he talked about how strong back in the day, how strong you were and Billy Graham and Ivan Koloff, and he wanted to know if you ever worked out with Billy Graham and Ivan Koloff.
No, I never worked out with either one of them. But let me just say this, and I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody. I really am not. But he asks me a question, I have to be truthful in my answer. I can't put Graham in that department, because Graham, everybody knows, used the chemicals, steroids. So to me, that's artificial strength.
Gotcha.
I like to see what somebody can do naturally, not when they're loaded with drugs like that. So I don't know how strong Billy was. I know that somebody said he did 5-something on the bench press. Well, I did 565 on the bench, but I did it clean. I did it without anything, any aid of anything. And so when I hear lifters, wrestlers who lifted, it depends on who lifted what through natural training and strength versus chemicals. Chemicals, everybody knows. Billy, unfortunately, was very, very heavy into that. How strong was he without it? I have no idea.
Gotcha. Well, Bruno, wow. Another absolutely fast hour here, and it's always such an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show, especially during the holiday season. It seems we do this once a year, and I can't wait to have you back on in 2007.
Well, it'll be my pleasure, and let me thank you, Eric, for having me on, and thank all those wonderful people who asked interesting questions, and I hope they're all satisfied with the answers. And again, I want to wish you and all of your listeners a very, very, happy and healthy. Consider that as their profession.
Gotcha. So how's your health these days? I mean, you're looking great in all the pictures that I've seen of you.
Well, for an old guy, I feel pretty darn good. I've had these major surgeries, but I was extremely lucky because I know other guys who have had surgeries from, those old concrete-like rings we used to wrestle on years ago. It left a lot of guys, with having hip replacements and back surgeries, knee replacements, all that kind of stuff. And in my case, I've had, major back surgeries, and I had hip replacement and other stuff. But I was so extremely lucky. I had some really great doctors, and they did a real good job.
Wow.
And as a result, I did my own rehab, and I train 6 days a week. And I considering my age and everything else, I think I'm in pretty good shape.
Excellent. What is your workout routine like these days?
Well, one day on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I work out with the weights. I work out about 2 hours each day with, different weight exercises. And then the other 3 days, I do road work. I never do less than 6 miles, and I go up to usually 7 miles, but maybe once a week I go as high as 8 miles.
Wow.
And then when I get done with that, I come back home in my little gym downstairs, and I do about 1,000 reps of, crunches, leg raises, leg extensions, all kind of different stomach workouts.
That's amazing.
Well, that's how I keep my weight down, because I'm down to about 250. Well, right now I'm a little heavier. Right now I'm about 220.
Aren't we all with the holidays?
Yeah, the holidays. I'm really working even harder, but the weight is still creeped up a little. But I try to be at 215. But for the holidays, I'll go up to maybe 222, 223. But then I'll get back to, solid track, and I'll be back down to 215.
Have you ever thought about writing a fitness book for seniors?
You know what? Recently, because we've been doing some a documentary thing that we've been working on, and some people saw what I look like today physically. They think that that might be a good thing to do. I don't know. We'll see if somebody shows some real interest in it. Maybe I would, but. Nothing solid so far.
Gotcha. Now, the last couple of years that I had you on the air, there seemed to be a little bit of a recruiting process going on at some point with the WWE trying to get you into the Hall of Fame. Has the recruiting process started yet for next year's Hall of Fame?
No, there's no. At least I've not been contacted or informed about anything from anybody. No.
Gotcha. Now, how would you feel if they just went ahead and inducted you without even your blessing?
Well, I don't know that I could do anything about it.
Yeah.
But I think that most people, I believe, know how I feel about that. But if they did it that way, if they chose to do it that way, then if it's allowed to.
What's it gonna do? WBCB presents That's Cool. Are you talking to me? Pro Wrestling Radio. Oh, it's so. Can you feel it? Oh, the damn soul. Call in with a question or comment. 6-1. Just bring it. What is he doing? And 1-888-922-2149. Oh, it's true. Don't make me hurt you. Be the man. You got it. That's hard time. I hate you ever. And now your host of the show, Eric.
Well, thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you all. This is Pro Wrestling Radio. I'm not going to waste much time with a long introduction here because I am just absolutely ecstatic about the show I am able to present to you today. I could not think of a better way to close out 2006 than a man who has been a guest on this show more than any other in the history of the 8 years that this radio show has been on the air. He is without question the most popular guest that I have had since day one, according to listeners of the radio show, and he is pro wrestling's living legend, a former Triple WF World Heavyweight.
To do that, then, they could do it, I guess, but I certainly would not participate in it.
Right. Were you surprised when you heard that Bret Hart returned last year for his induction?
Well, I knew Bret Hart. I can't tell you that I know him, really know him. I met him many different times, throughout the wrestling thing, but I can say that I really know the guy. And I don't like to judge somebody on the decisions that they make. Obviously, if he chose to accept that invitation, it must have, must have been important for him, I would think. I don't know. But that was his choice. I can't judge what other people do. I can only go with me and what I feel and what I believe in.
Right. Now, again, we are talking to the living legend of professional wrestling, Bruno Sammartino. Now, you and I had a little conversation recently, and we started talking about this, and I'd love for you to share your thoughts with the listeners of the show out there. What do you think about the recent boom, so to speak, over the last couple of years of religion from your contemporaries that have all of a sudden put out books proclaiming how religious they are and spreading their word.
Well, you know what? If it's sincere, if it's really sincere, I take my hat off to all of them, to all those who are extremely sincere. But I have seen, or heard rather,
A champion, a good friend, and I'll tell you what, it is just an honor to have him back on the show. His name is Bruno Sammartino. Bruno, welcome back to the show.
well, thank you very kindly, Eric. I'm very happy to be on your show, and please let me wish you and all of your listeners a happy new year. And what's the old saying? Wishing everyone health, wealth, and happiness.
There you go. How's your holiday been so far?
The holidays have been real good because it's been just, a family thing. I've had my sons and their children, daughter-in-law and us, and we've been spending one night Christmas Eve over my son Daryl's house, and Christmas Day they were all over here, and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day it will be the same scenario. So when you're in family and everybody's doing okay, that's the most wonderful thing.
Now we all know about David, but did your other son ever have any aspirations to be a pro wrestler?
No, he wrestled both high school and college. Daryl did. He's a very good wrestler. And Danny, my other son, he wrestled in high school, but he played baseball and some football.
Okay.
But no, as far as professional, because by the time they came along, wrestling had already changed, by the time Vince McMahon Jr. took over. And at that point, they kind of really didn't care to